You're here because you know something needs to shift. You've tried willpower, you've set goals, but what you need now is a system, and that's what we're building, one pillar at a time. This is the 7 Pillars Podcast. I'm Kevin Pennell. Let's get to work. Grief, or I should say the projection of grief, started my journey to compile the 7 pillars. Hearing stage 4 cancer when at a doctor's appointment with my father hit me and my family pretty hard. I raged, I cried, I thought back to the end-stage cancer patients I had cared for as a critical care hospital corpsman in the U.S. Navy and in the back of an ambulance as an EMS captain in Richmond, Virginia. I knew what was coming, and my mind, body, and spirit started the clock, I'll say, on a mental health time bomb. Welcome back to the 7 Pillars Podcast. In the second episode, we'll delve deeper into how the 7 pillars of stability can provide a framework for navigating the complex and deeply personal experience of grief. Following our initial exploration, we'll discuss how each pillar can offer specific support on a path toward healing and integration during times of profound loss. Just like our day-to-day well-being, when we're in grief, we also need to take ownership of our grief journey, which means acknowledging our feelings without judgment, which is hard because some folks think they shouldn't be sad or angry or I should deal with it different. Well, you're human. And until you lose someone real close to you that means a lot to you, you don't know how you're going to react. And we need to recognize also that we do have a capacity for healing. So we shouldn't just sit in this grief state forever. Tip 1 is let yourself grieve. Let the emotions out in a healthy way. For me, a year after my father passed, which is April of last year, I still cry, right? I still talk to him in my head or out loud thinking, hey, which tool should I use for this? Trying to think about the lessons he taught me. And I remember him in conversations with friends and family. Sometimes we all cry together. Sometimes we laugh together. Sometimes we do all of it. But this is healing, and it helps us honor their memory. But you have to give yourself grace and give yourself time to grieve. The second tip for owning our grief journey is to keep building on the practices, right? You started balancing and stabilizing your 7 pillars. You still own this journey, right? And your loved one would want you to keep moving forward, not just stop and go, well, I lost this person and that's it. Own it, live it, and keep growing. For mindfulness, we need to cultivate being present, particularly if we're in the hospital visiting them or at a home or they're at home or a hospice or something like that, right? Without being overwhelmed all the time, but then able to find maybe peace in the midst of sorrow sometimes. But it's going to be a hell of a roller coaster, I'll tell you that now. So I would say tip 1, keep your meditation practice up, right? Being able to sit there for 10 minutes every day to yourself somewhere in a corner in the hospital or outside or whatever is very helpful. You can do some breathing exercises like box breathing, in 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, 3, 4, out 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, 3, 4. And I use that more kind of at night when I'm falling asleep, but it's also a good thing to chill you out. Or the 2, which I got from Andrew Huberman, 2 quick in your nose, and then 1 out of your mouth. The second thing is to engage your senses fully in simple activities, right? So when we're swirling emotionally and just everywhere, it feels like when we're in grief, sometimes we're overwhelmed. And so simple activities can help reground us. That 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique I mentioned in the book. And that means we're going to give ourselves time to pick out 5 things we can see. We're going to look around. We're going to call them out in our head. 4 things we can touch on yourself, near you. 3 things you can hear. 2 things you can smell. And 1 thing that you can taste. Another tool I found immensely helpful was walk in nature. If you don't have a lot of nature near you, try and go find walking in a tree or just being outside, or you can do both at the same time. I found that very helpful. So I'd be walking outside. I happen to live in the mountains, so I got lots of nature. And as I was walking, then I would look at the things I can see, that I can hear, that I can smell, that I can taste, those kind of things, right? And then kind of notice the shifts. Like, does that help? Does it not? Is there something else that helps you? Is it breathing better? Whatever it is, but be mindful of where you're at in this grieving process, in this supportive process that you're going to have with your family. This takes us right into the third pillar, right? Movement. There's such a huge connection between physical activity and emotional release, right? And you can find gentle ways to move, or you can just get after it. I say my first tip is get after it. Exercise burns off nervous and sorrowful energy, but like, again, I talk about in the book, I was getting after it before, but I wasn't managing my other areas. I wasn't mindful. I didn't have any boundaries. I was sleeping horrible, all these things. So remember, it's this system we're going to put together. But you can cry while you run. You can sob while you bench press. You can wail as you're in downward dog. Keep moving your body because your body will help you burn through emotional energy. It's so beneficial. The second tip for movement as we work through our grief is if you find yourself, you can't get to your gym, you just can't do something, you have to ramp down getting after it, at least walk and do yoga. You don't need equipment for any of those things, right? And you can do basic stretches. There's great stuff on YouTube. There's like mental calming yoga on YouTube. It's awesome. They're two super powerful methods of exercise, and they provide a solid mind, body, spirit connection and healing. There were plenty of times when I was just amped up after my panic attack, and I just did a yoga session, and it kind of chilled me out. It helped me get in touch with my body again, which was just firing on so many cylinders. And when we're in grief, we're very similar, right? We're just so sorrowful. So moving in some capacity is extremely helpful. Pillar 4, boundaries in grief. It's tough because you think, well, I don't want to have walls up because I want to be supportive. But here's how I say we need to do that. 1, continue to learn to say no to commitments, right? When you feel overwhelmed, you're going to have so much on your mind thinking about how am I going to get through the day where I get to the hospital and then I'm there with, say, in my case with my mom, and then we're there with my dad as he's transitioning, right? Transitioning meaning his body was dying. And how are we going to do that? But you just do it. But the boundaries you set is I'm not saying yes to everything. I'm not going to every event someone asks me about. I'm not taking every phone call. I'm not taking every text message, right? You don't have to be there for work. You don't have to be there for all your friends. In fact, most of your real good friends know what you're going through, and they're like, I'm on standby if you need me. Send you a text every now and then. But it's up to you when you respond to those things. Now is the time for you and your family to grieve. That's the boundary. The second tip I have is as you grieve, work your way back to a new normal, right? Consider what behaviors you come back that are serving you well, and consider maybe what I fall back on, what I fall back into. Right? I stayed up a little bit more. Some nights I had a little more wine to drown the sorrow, right? But then being able to go, wait a minute, look what you're doing. Look where you came from. This grief in the middle, this loss is awful, but it shouldn't take away all the work that we've done for ourselves in balancing our pillars, right? And it's extremely hard. Connection, right? So to me, this is probably the most pertinent in grief, whether you're very close with your family like I am, or you're not. Is feeling really disconnected when you're grieving for someone you really care about is hard. So this isn't supposed to be endured in isolation, right? For me, the first tip I would say connection-wise for grief is reach out to trusted friends, family, or support groups. And you can consider new areas of connection, but you may not totally feel like it. In fact, I rejected my doctor's offer. I had a physical. I just happened to have a physical during the year after my father died. And she offered, hey, do you want to go to a grief counseling group? And I said, no, thank you. I had tried therapy before. I mentioned that in the book as well. And I got some good tools, but I said, no, it was out of pride. It was out of ownership for me. And for me, I know I have a strong support system in my family and friends. I have a big family. We're very close. They're not all therapists, but the way you talk about someone that you're losing or that you've lost with your family and friends is extremely supportive. And a lot of what support groups are based off and a lot of the tools you learn are part of these 7 pillars, right? So if you're not fortunate to have a support group, to have close family and friends, and you're going through something tough, then I would consider reach out to a grief support group. The second tip is share your memories with loved ones, right? I've done that on podcasts. I've reshared the interview I did with my dad a couple years ago. And I've talked with friends and family, and we just actually interned his remains in the Veterans Cemetery, and it just brought up so many stories. But going over those and reflecting on the comfort and healing, sharing can bring that, right? So tell the stories, the good, the funny, the bad, the scary, but remember their loved one and leverage the loss to create deeper relationships with those that are still here, right? Because people are still here. And even my mom, who her and my dad were together for over 60 years, right? She talks about how folks are like, how are you going to do this? And what are you doing? She said, I'm not sitting around doing nothing because my husband died and she loved him deeply, but she's going to live some life. And that's huge. And part of that is making new connections, having different experiences now as a widow, which is different than it was. And she's so inspiring to me. But that has to do with looking at, let me celebrate his life. Let me live my life instead of just crumbling and sitting around and being ruined by this. Sleep is not going to be great. You're not going to maintain a good sleep routine, right? When you're in a sick loved one's life, right? You're going to be up early. You're going to be up late. You're going to be thinking about it. You're going to be talking. You're going to be crying. You're going to have to go to appointments. It's going to get jacked up, right? This is part of being human. So while not optimal and it won't cause permanent damage in the short term, Like, live how you need to do to support the one that you're losing or have lost and the ones that are still here. This is one of those, right, not being too by the book with these pillars and fitting them into your life. Otherwise, they won't work and you won't do them anymore. The second thing is be conscious when you get too off kilter, right, from your sleep routine. And after however long, and I'm not going to say a prescriptive, after 3 months, you should be able to do this because it's different for everybody, right? There's some nights I go to bed the right way now, and there's some nights I don't. And that's not just from losing my dad, but, you know, if you need to recreate or restart your evening wind down routine and get strict with it to reset yourself, that's helpful, right? At a minimum, what is very helpful is go to bed at a reasonable time and wake up at the same time, right? So just getting in that routine is good. You can come back to make the room cool and turn the lights on, all that kind of stuff. But if you just set those times, that's helpful. Faith, man. Tip one for me, you know, this is to me finding a lot of solace in the strength of my beliefs and hopefully your beliefs. Pray a lot, right? Give thanks to your higher power. For me, that's God. That's a Christian God. Whatever and whoever you believe in, thank God for ending your loved one's pain. For me, my dad was in such pain before we got him in the hospital where he could IV pain medicine, right? And so that was a blessing that he started to get pain medicine that just worked right away, right? And I'm thankful for that to happen. And I know humans did it. They started the IVs. They did all that. I've done that myself. But I also, a lot of stuff happened along the way with the journey with my father that reinvigorated my faith, his strength, and the way I saw him suffering and dealing with it and moving, and then getting free treatments and just a lot of stuff that happened. But I'm thankful God took him into his arms and, you know, for giving me and my family the time with him, right? That's the other angle of this is not just I lost and so I'm mad at you and I'm going to rage at the sky. And one of my favorite movie quotes is from Robert Duvall in Open Range, where he's a Christian man, but one of their party had been killed by bad guys and they thought he was going to speak. And he said at the burial of this young man, and he said, no, I'm not talking to that son of a bitch. And he was talking about God, right? He was mad. Humans get mad. We have emotions. The spin to that is certainly be upset, angry, sad, sorrowful about the loss, but also we got to be with them, right? And to me, that leads to tip 2 on faith and working through grief is reflect on what gives your life meaning, right? And how your loved one's memory can contribute to that. Right? How does your understanding of meaning and purpose might be evolving, and consider how they've influenced that and the positive. And those positive thoughts can help start to overtake more than negative ones. For me, as I mentioned, I'm so inspired by my dad's strength, who didn't eat food for like a month or two, right? Barely drank water, still got around, still got up, didn't complain, right? Until the pain was just so unbearable. And then we were fortunate to get him, meet this great person that got him in the hospital, that got him comfortable. And then he passed in peace, right? So he wasn't suffering. He was asleep on pain meds. And I find solace as that. And it's hard to think about. Now, it just is, and it will be for you. It really will be. I hope this episode offered a holistic framework for understanding and navigating grief in however you can do it. But that you also got practical tools for finding some stability. Again, you can get those in the Stability Equation, 7 Pillars for a More Balanced Life on Amazon, and Kindle, paperback, hardcover. There's also on the peopleprocessprogress.com the 7 Pillars Field Guide. So it's just the exercises with a paragraph summary of what each of those are, and you can work through that. You could use that maybe as you're going through grief as an exercise, and use all these tools, right? Use them all however you see fit to really move toward healing as you progress, in your journey to life without that loved one who's dying or has passed. And it's going to be a new normal. It's not going to be the same, and it's going to be hard, and memories are going to pop up, and they're going to make you laugh, and then they're going to make you cry. So the call to action kind of is what I just said, right? It's reflect on the 7 pillars and identify which one feels particularly relevant to your experience of grief this week, because it'll change week to week too, right? And then maybe think about what's one small thing, right, that I can focus on implementing in the coming days. Right. One that I touched on today and that I think about is sleep, right? I stayed up later. I reflected more. I watched sad things. It was weird. I was in this spiral and then I was like, hey, I'm going to go to bed when I should, right? Or not as late. I'm going to get up. I'm going to get after it. I'm going to do all the things that we're supposed to do. So for me, it was fixing my sleep because it really got off track. So what is it for you? You can go to peopleprocessprogress.com. Give me feedback on this episode, on other episodes, talk about things you want to hear about, I do have a lineup of episodes coming up on, anything from public safety to military veterans to healthcare workers, IT, the mix of worlds that I've lived in and how I know these pillars can help, both in professional advancement and personal strength, and with resources and tools that can help all of you. Thanks for listening to the 7 Pillars podcast. If today's episode gave you something to think about or act on, consider sharing it with someone else walking their own path. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you don't miss what's next. You can connect with me and follow on X and Instagram at PannellKG, PANNELKG. I'm also on LinkedIn. In the meantime, own your mind, move your body, anchor your spirit, and I'll see you next time. Godspeed, y'all.